Hey guys, we just landed here in Seattle, Washington, our beautiful North Point, Washington facility. First of all, we just want to say thanks for joining us on this journey. Anything you want to say real quick, Big John?
Appreciate the support, and we got a lot of great episodes coming your way, so be sure to check them out, show us some love on all the different media platforms, YouTube, podcasts, all that good stuff.
Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes.
Absolutely.
Next few episodes are going to be showcasing our amazing North Point, Washington staff, as well as some of the alumni that have graduated from this facility, as well as North Point, Idaho, that live in the Washington State area.
Yeah, it's going to be a real good time,
guys. Welcome to No Way But North, where we talk about the miracles of recovery and the tools used to achieve them. My name is Cooper Lyons. My clean date is November 27th, 2010. And as always, I am joined by Big John Meldrum, my co-host, my partner in crime.
Your confidant?
My confidant, my bodyguard.
I think I'd let you get shot.
Wow. Cuts deep.
Sorry. I don't know why. I got a hot flash. I'm going through menopause or something. Like, I'm over here, like, sweating.
With all these lights that now they can see.
Is that what it is?
They can see in the background
glistening.
now.
Hold on. I'm not trying to look like the fat guy over here just sweating. Oh, thank you.
Just big bones.
How's your leg? You feel stretched?
Yeah, my back is feeling better. These chairs. We're finally at the end of our Washington stretch. We got our last guest over here.
We did it.
It's dark outside. We've been doing it all day. It's been great. A lot of really great guests, and we're going to end it with another great one. How you feeling, sir?
Feeling good.
Good.
Hey, guys.
Guys, this is Dak. Dak is one of our North Point, Washington counselors, and I kind of just realized you're, you're the only North Point, Washington counselor that we have on the Gambit.
Is that right?
Yeah, we had Dan LaBuda, and then we had Darren over at our outpatient from Evergreen.
Yeah.
But you're the only.
You're the lead counselor over here now.
I am the lead counselor. Yeah.
Congratulations,
nice. Congratulations.
Man.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's a lot of responsibility.
Some days is good, some days it's not.
It goes back and forth often. We both know that. That's for sure.
Sometimes I'll take my wallet out and get a literal $1 to pass the buck, either to Dan or to one of the other counselors. That's my skill. That's what I'm
going to use
at.
that.
That's a good bit.
I'm gonna use that. I'm gonna go to my lead counselor and be like, "Here's $1.
Here's $1.
Your buck is passed. You take care of that."
All right, guys. Well, we're going to be talking about Dak's story, but as always, we got to ask you to hit that like button, that subscribe button, that share button. It helps us get this message of recovery, this addiction awareness about addiction and recovery, and education about addiction and recovery out to more people. That's really what we're trying to accomplish here. We really appreciate all your help. For those of you that are hitting those buttons, it takes a little bit of effort, but it does a lot of good. Let's get into it. We're going to start with that quote, like we always do. Oh, I thought you were going to say something.
Can we have like a neon sign I can point to?
I think that's, again, we've talked about this. I think that's a producer, Alex's job to kind of edit that in when we go, hit that like button down below. So he's not looking very happy with us right now, but all right, guys, as always, we're going to start with a quote. And that quote today is, "You are always one choice away from changing your life." Mac Anderson. And it's interesting. I think every choice we make kind of puts us on a different trajectory. It changes where we're going just a little bit. Trajectory.
Okay.
What did I say? What did I say?
Yeah, I don't know. It sounds funny.
I just mouth mashed it.
Yeah.
Sorry. It's been a long day, guys. My mouth is all dry. Hold on. Just got a little nip.
A little nip.
But no, it puts our lives on a different trajectory.
There you go.
I think my use and my addiction definitely affected my life, right, to say the least. And I made those decisions every single day. And there was a point where I finally decided that I was done, and I was going to actually do the work in a program, and I was going to get sober, and I was going to make amends to my family, and I was going to live a better life. And I continue to make those decisions. So I don't think, one choice away, but you're also making those choices consistently every day.
For sure.
So what does that quote mean to you, Dak?
Well, yeah, we're always one choice away from changing our lives. And every choice that we make, kind of change our lives. And one of the things I was thinking of is looking back at some of the choices that it's easy in hindsight to look back and kind of decide where the chapter breaks are in our lives. But the big choices that I've made, that I was struggling with, like, oh man, this is a big choice I'm about to make. Looking back, have not been the ones that really fundamentally altered my life. Some of them altered my life in pretty big ways, but the really big choices that I made were the ones that in the moment didn't seem like that big a deal, and maybe they were even impulsive, or maybe not a lot of thought went into them, and I wasn't being as mindful as I've been in other situations. So I guess you just never know what the choices are that are going to like really, kind of set you on a different path, or really take you down that exit ramp into a different neighborhood.
Totally.
Yeah.
He makes me read it twice for him. I feel like I have to explain that to every guest. They're like, "What are you doing?" And like they're probably really sick of hearing me say, "He makes me read it twice." Just making problems everywhere you go.
I know.
You are always one choice away from changing your life. Mac Anderson. You're getting really pensive.
It's deep.
Don't mess this up, Jon.
I mean, kind of just what Dak said. I think it's that idea. Daily, we are faced with choices and decisions that can alter our life in any drastic way. When you start dealing with some of our patients, like the big choice, I think of within our realm is coming to treatment or not coming to treatment, right? Do I walk through these doors? Once I get in these doors, do I stay in these doors? If I speak to this person, I engage this relationship with this person, like this is a choice. Like, how is this going to affect me? And I think that that's something that's so mindless sometimes. I think sometimes, like Dak said, I always don't want to call him Drax. I don't know why. Dak.
Watching, not Back to the Future, Guardians of the Galaxy.
Not even in the same.
I don't know.
But, it's just that idea is like, sometimes there's just these mindless decisions that we make that have such big
Giant
consequences and like effects on our lives. And it's really hard to think about that. Cause like I'm just saying, there's been things that I've done and I'm like, this is not going to affect me at all. And I'm like, oh shit, that's a big choice. Whoa. Wow. I didn't really think that whole thing
through.
Yeah. Didn't. Yeah. And now I kind of screwed myself over.
All right, guys. Well, Dak, first of all, I want to say thank you for taking time out of a Sunday night now.
Were you working today?
With us.
Were you working?
Yeah, I'm working right now. I'm not off for another hour, so
right?
take all the time you need.
I think we will.
Yeah.
Thanks for taking time to sit down in front of us with front of cameras and microphone in your face and all that kind
pleasure.
of stuff. So
thank you so much for the opportunity.
Yeah, of course. We're glad you're here. So let's just start kind of with your childhood. I know you had military parents, military dad, and moved around a lot. What was your childhood like? Relationship with your parents, experience with school and friends, all that stuff.
Okay, yeah. So, my dad was in the Marine Corps, and so we moved around a lot when I was young, and then we sort of settled in the D.C., Baltimore area. I don't have any brothers and sisters, so it's just kind of me and my folks, and not a lot of alcohol or drug use in the home. In fact, none. I learned why later in life. But it was pretty kind of vanilla childhood. When I became, I don't know, like when I became a teenager and started to like grow into who I was going to grow into, which ironically is not at all who I grew up to be as an adult. But when I started to create my own sort of personality, it was really, I try not to like do that over analyzing from the benefit of hindsight, but I was just like a weird freaking kid, man. And I was like really kind of spasticated, and I didn't have any self-confidence. So it was difficult for me to make friends. I wasn't like the guy with a lot of friends, and I wasn't really good at school. In fact, I was very bad at school. The only thing I was really good at, I was a good athlete. I was a good wrestler. I was a really good wrestler, and I had a lot of success in wrestling, which brought me a little bit of self-confidence. But even then, that's when I learned that I was like kind of getting away. I've like, one of the things I always, any like acclaim or success that I've had, maybe not really up till today, but for a long time, I kind of understood to be like me getting away with something. And that's kind of where that was planted. So I was a good wrestler, and I had some people in my circle through that, but I was just sort of like, I just didn't have the I didn't even really like, fuck up and get in trouble because I just didn't have the self-confidence to. I just kind of like didn't really exist until I left the house and went away to college. But I didn't have, unlike a lot of people, I didn't have my first drink or my first drug until I was out of high school. Didn't have my first girlfriend until I was 17. I just like didn't really exist kind of in the world.
Do you think that moving around a lot when you were really little played
definitely
a role in that?
Yeah, definitely, because I learned to keep my walls up and just never became, like I never really, a lot of times when people move around, this is my experience anyway, when people move around and aren't given the opportunity to like develop these deep roots, sometimes they kind of learn the tool of like acting out and getting attention, or sometimes they learn the tool of just kind of shrinking away. And the the second, is that the latter, whatever, that was kind of me. Like I never like really acted out. And like, I mean, I remember one time I was like 15, 16, something like that. There was like a girl in my school who just said hello to me, hello, Dak. And I like just kind of stonewalled her because I didn't have the self-confidence to return, to respond. I mean, so that was kind of it as a kid. I did freaking terrible in school, just enough to stay athletically eligible, did really well in sports.
Yep.
And then that was kind of it. And I didn't like take really any responsibility or, for my life, really. I didn't like make decisions,
Kind of just did what you were told.
Not even that. I mean, I just kind of did nothing, like, I mean, I was told to do things, didn't do it. I was told not to do it, just kind of like was there.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's sort of, I kind of feel like I wasn't even like really a person until I left home and went to college. And then I kind of was like a freaking bomb going off. But
well, we're definitely going to get to that. Just one last question I want to ask is, what was your relationship with your mom and dad as you were kind of growing up and going through, from childhood through high school?
It was good. They were, God bless them, man. They were wonderful. My dad was very strict. He was military guy. Yeah. And my mom was just as loving as can be. I mean, I've got nothing to complain about. We were close. They couldn't figure out what the hell they had on their hands with this like weirdo kid. And so I remember like, my like dad would take me into work with him sometimes and like just trying to instill some discipline. And I would get these like long lectures, just kind of like, start acting right, kid. And just nothing. So yeah, no, they tried their best and I love them to death. And, to this day, just freaking love my family. It was easy for me at the time. And even like, even as I like became an adult to like complain about how bad I had it and like how tough it was for me. I'm like, everyone's got one skill. Mine is to this day, like feeling sorry for myself. So I like I exercised that. I became a master at that, but I really don't have anything to complain about. I mean, God bless them. They loved me to death. And that's really all you can ask for.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Cool. So moved out, went to college.
Yeah.
Bomb went off.
Oh yeah.
Let's hear. That's what we're here for. So let's.
Oh yeah, yeah. So I went away to college, to this like small little college in Pennsylvania. Like I said, I'm from the East Coast. Excuse me. And so I went there to wrestle. I was in college to be on the wrestling team, and I'm not sure what about here in Washington State, but on the East Coast, that's a winter sport. So I was there in the fall without a lot to do. Well, no. Let me rephrase that. I had a lot to do. I was a freshman in college. It didn't occur to me to do any of it. And so pretty soon, I don't remember how quickly, but it wasn't that long. I mean, you're a freshman.
You have downtime in college. Like, this is when you get in trouble.
Yeah.
This is like nothing to, like, there's no...
Yeah, well, I mean, here's my
obligation.
Point. Exactly, but here's my point. Like, and this is where I was like looking in hindsight. I kind of like, man, I wish when I was 15, someone would have like smacked me upside the head and told me to get right, because it wasn't like I'm a freshman in college and I'm like, you know what, dude, I'm gonna blow off my classes. I was a freshman in college, like, and it's ridiculous to say now, but it never actually occurred to me to go to all of them. So I failed. My claim to fame, or one of them, is that like my freshman year, 18 years old, here I am in college, away from home for the first time. I had volleyball at 8 a.m. to satisfy some sort of
elective
credit. Yeah,
got an F in it. so because I just never went, right? And the same was true. So I was just like tragic. I never learned to apply myself. I never learned. I just never learned, like. Not that I didn't learn to apply myself. I never learned that there was anything to apply myself to. I just like show up and sit there and then get up when they tell you to. So that was kind of my experience through, in the fall until wrestling season started, or until the preseason practices started. But, living in a dorm, and I lived in an all male dorm, which I don't know why I chose that, but whatever, I figured out someone, pretty quickly early on. I don't remember if my roommate or who it was, but they gave me something. They put something in front of me that I wasn't really familiar with. I didn't quite know what it was, but I was like acting like I did. It was like, it was a freaking beer, right? You know, like it was like I'd never had a drink of alcohol in my life. And so I so I was like, okay, crap, I'll try this. And like, that was it, dude. Like, I mean, I say this and I mean this, like to this day, I'm a man in my 40s right now, removed from context, bang for your buck. That first drink I got, oh, and by the way, it was an Old English 800. It was my very first drink. I remember that very well. But yeah. But like, here's my point, man. Still to this day, greatest moment of my life. I mean, that moment, oh, good God. I like twisted the cap, tipped it up. And by the time I had set it back down, I mean, you know what I'm going to say. I had found it, man. I was a little tweaked out that nobody had like,
where was this at?
Why didn't you assholes like make me do this earlier? You were trying to have me figure out like how to get by in life. Well, I just figured it out. Why wasn't someone showing me this at 13?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So I thought at the time, you know, I learned that what
you are now the second person that told us that like between Old E and Steel Reserve.
Yeah.
Like my first experience was like,
Who was
Old
that?
English.
Rocky? No.
Justin?
I can't. Josh. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, like I'd like to this day, like somebody says Old English to me, and like I want to gag,
freaking
like
love
I
it,
want to
man.
throw up.
Yeah.
It was the worst experience. Like it was a recruiting trip for me
Uh-huh.
to Syracuse,
Oh.
and like I'd gotten up there and I went by myself, and other players had gone with their family, so they put them up in the hotel, and they're like, "Oh, since you're by yourself, you're gonna go stay with the other offensive linemen in their apartments." And so I was like, "Oh, okay." Never had tried Old English. I'd sipped beers before, but I like never tried malt liquor. And I remember they're like, "Hey, Rook, you drink 40s?" And I'm like,
Oh, of course I do. Yeah.
I'm like, "Yeah, I drink 40s." Like, yeah, you know.
Do I look like a defensive line?
Yeah, yeah. So like, I remember they handed me two 40s, and then they taped them to my hands.
Oh, that Edward
Edward 40 hands.
Yeah.
And they answered them, and I'm like, "What?" Like, they're like, "You know what to do, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And I looked, and I was like, "What do I do?"
Pass blocking.
What did I do again? But I remember like I choked down one of them and passed out in the sun. And woke up the next day and we had to like do film and like all this stuff, me and the coaches, and I'm just sitting there like so like it was
Well then of course, you know, like I had my first drink and it was malt liquor and I didn't know anything, so I guess I drink malt liquor, right? And then this was the mid 90s, and so I had grown up watching like BET Rap City, where they would have like the commercials were even better than the videos. They had those like St. Ides malt liquor like commercials, which were really like rap videos.
Dak, I respect you.
And so I remember I was like, oh, okay, finally this all makes sense to me. I mean, like now Cypress Hill, what they were telling me, it makes sense. I get it, man. Like Ice Cube was telling me about this shit and I just wouldn't listen. So yeah, I thought I'd figured it out,
man. I can see
man.
Dak just sitting there, like drinking a 40, like listening to like Uncut at like 1 o'clock in the morning.
That's fantastic.
Love it
I was
so much.
sitting here listening to J. Rue the Damager in my like rural Pennsylvania room, not
Just
talking to
sitting there,
anybody, just getting shit faced and like crying. basically.
So when you started drinking and like you found like this magic potion, boom, Old E.
Yeah.
How did that affect like the rest of school?
It made it a lot more interesting. I mean, I
Like with wrestling and sports.
well, okay, yeah, it messed with wrestling immediately. Now, mind you, I started drinking before wrestling season started, and you know, I just didn't stop drinking. You know what I mean? Like I'd found something, as I'm sure you guys can relate to this. I know most people can, you know, find themselves in our situation. Like I'd finally found it, man. Like low self-esteem, not pleasing, you know, don't live up to my dad. Who are these women that won't talk to me? Like all that stuff, all this like that I had going on. Forget it, man. Like I have all these problems I thought I had in the world. Now I got one problem, and that was I just need to keep drinking, and
everything else is
exactly.
perfect.
And you guys, it sounds like you know a little bit about college yourself. If there's one thing that's not hard to do in college, it's keep drinking, right? Yeah. So,
which I did, especially as an athlete.
Oh God!
Right?
Oh my
like
goodness
I
gracious!
just never understood.
Yeah, and
I never understood people that could go drink and then go to practice the next day.
yeah. Well, I couldn't.
Well, and like we had guys that would like literally skip. Like I remember like my first conditioning. Like I went to conditioning on Monday morning. Everybody went out Sunday, and like we're running around this track. We're doing like 100-yard sprints, and people are literally puking up like foam beer. And I just remember I'm like, what? And then like they come in and smell like alcohol. I'm like, why though? Like that, like I was just so like dumbfounded. Like how can you even function? Because like the one time I did get drunk in college, I'm like, this is miserable. I don't ever want to do this again.
Yeah, it's not my experience.
I was gonna say it sounds like it was exactly opposite.
Now you would have some cocaine or weed, like I mean, a whole different story.
Give me a year or two, and now we're talking. But yeah. So how did it affect my college experience? Well, it didn't do a lot for like my achievement, but it made college really awesome. I mean, like you guys know this as well as I do. It's difficult to bond with people. It's particularly difficult for young dudes to bond with other young dudes. Well, I'm starting to party with my teammates. We're all best friends. You know, I didn't realize I was so funny. I didn't realize I was so charming. Looking back, what I realize in hindsight is that from the word go, I took it about 3 light years farther than anyone else did. So my drinking was completely abnormal, like from the very first time.
You're like Dax is the dude, or
yeah,
Dax
is
the dude.
Yeah, we got to get him. We got to get
him, man. Like we're gonna do this. We got to get him. He's gonna be the dude.
Right. He's gonna get all the attention because I was like. And even until I finally got sober, this was true. I was not the guy that was like, you know, getting faded or getting drunk or whatever, and just like hanging out, chilling out, watching 120 minutes on MTV. I was out there making some moves. I was like drawing attention to myself.
I love his references.
I was like the dude.
Like they're so great.
Yeah, I was like the dude that was like running around naked and like crying and stuff. So I was like drawing attention right away. But like a lot of people, you know, at the age of 18, even 19, you know, I understood myself, okay, I'm a wrestler, but that didn't really tell me a lot about myself. So when I started like, you know, partying really hard, although partying is not really the word I would use today because it was just pure desperation. But when I started doing that, and I started to get a response from people, you know, like they started to understand me or kind of like think of me as not just this dude Dak, but as like, oh, he's like the guy with the big personality, the guy who's like that. I started to, it was my identity, right, man? So like that was me, yeah. I mean, or like just like the freaking train wreck guy, you know. But so, and even if I was like being made fun of, which I was a lot, or just kind of like self-deprecating, oh, I gotta knock this shit off, oh, I can't believe I fucked up so bad, that sort of stuff. It was something, man. So that was who I was.
You absorbed it into your identity.
Yeah, man, yeah. So like that sort of became how I understood myself, was like the guy who's out of control and like the guy who's probably gonna like fall through a window or something, or just whatever dumb shit's gonna happen, I'm gonna be in the middle of it. And it sucked, and it got me in a whole lot of trouble almost immediately, but it was better than what I had to that point, which was nothing. So yeah.
It's so funny to hear him talk because, like, I had a buddy like that.
It might have been me.
Well, it was just like everything that you describe is, I was about to say, like Jared Kimmel. Like, that was the guy on our team. Like, he was the guy who, like, get Jared. If we're going out, Jared's got to come with us because he is going to make the night. And he was the guy that, did the naked running around, you know, upstate New York. Snow is like 7 feet deep. He's the dude that's shimmying up the side of the apartment building naked and, like, free diving off into, like, a big mound of snow. But it was just like, you'd see that and you're like, this is a train wreck. But like, he was the dude. And I remember like, as it progressed, like looking back on him, just like, he just started unraveling so fast. Like as we went through like freshman year, sophomore year, junior year. And like, it was rough. So like, it's just like, hearing him, I'm like, holy shit, Jared Kimmel.
Well, so is that what started to happen and things start to unravel?
Yeah, things started to unravel immediately. I got disciplined. The very first preseason tournament, because we'd have these like tournaments, and I remember it was at King's College right outside of Scranton, Pennsylvania, which was the first time I'd ever heard of Scranton until The Office. But there's a tournament up there. My very first, here I am, man. I came to college to wrestle. Here I am, my very first match, my very first tournament. Missed the bus, didn't make it, and so coach wasn't too happy about that. But also, I was a freshman who wasn't really going to be a contributor, so it didn't really they didn't hold the bus up for me either. And so I started. I got.
Were you at home hungover or?
Yeah, no, I was still out, and I remember exactly what was going on. I don't remember a lot about my freshman year in college, but I remember exactly what was going on there. and I remember making the decision not to go to the team meeting prior to getting on the bus, but which was irrelevant because I was never going to make weight for that tournament anyway. But my point is, the one thing I had going on in my life at that point was wrestling, and it impacted that immediately. And I kept getting disciplined. I kept getting pulled from some of the matches. I was missing practice. I was missing that sort of stuff, and I eventually got excused from the team. Pretty soon thereafter, like before the Christmas, before the holiday vacation, before the holiday break of my very freshman year.
Wow, quick.
I was on the team, but I wasn't really expected to come to all the functions. So, yeah.
So what followed after that?
Well, I went home for back to Baltimore where my family lived for the the holiday break between and I had a really, really, really bad car accident. I got super injured.
Were you drinking?
I was. And I'm actually like super duper lucky to be alive. I mean, it was almost game over immediately. I ended up being hospitalized for 2 months. I've got this I got a tracheotomy here. I've got, if I didn't have my shirt on right now, which is a hell of a thought, you'd see these like badass scars that I've got on each side. I got that John McCain thing going on where I can't raise this arm above my head because my clavicles were broken and this one just never healed. So I was in the hospital for a long time. I mean, for like, I don't know, a long time, but like almost 2 months. And needless to say, that was it for wrestling. So I missed an entire year of school. I was just kind of getting my strength back for a while. And so that was kind of that. I got really, really, really messed up, and like I didn't realize it at the time, but like looking back, boy, man, I hit the lottery or 1 in 100. I mean, it was bad. It was bad news. And I was driving, in this like kind of like, I guess, suburban Maryland. I don't know where the hell I was, but I was going over. I'd gotten a girlfriend, first girlfriend of my life. It was freaking awesome. And I was going to go visit her in like the little rinky-dink little trailer park where she lived. And I was a little faded, and I was probably going like 3 times the speed limit. And it had been raining. I have no recollection of this. I have what they call traumatic amnesia, so I don't remember the whole day. And there was things going on, I've been told, that would have been quite memorable. But it was January 1st, 1995. So it wasn't New Year's Eve. It was the evening of January 1st. I was like, driving hella fast, went into like a skid or something. And then my car spun around, and like there was like a tree or something. It was smash. And like the car just like horseshoed around the tree. And by the grace of God or something, somebody happened to be driving by. And that person who happened to be driving by happened to have a car phone, because this is the mid-90s. Ain't nobody got iPhones in this time. So it was like I was like super duper lucky. And then, apparently the helicopter came, got the jaws of life, and they took me to shock trauma in Baltimore, where I regained my strength little by little. Yeah. So that was like kind of put me out of action for a long time. And then when I was finally back on my feet, I went back to school, the same school that I had gone to. Not to wrestle. I couldn't wrestle, which was in some ways a relief, because just kind of like freed me up to like go to the next phase. Well, that also, but like, I mean, who was I kidding? I wasn't gonna be wrestling had run its course, right? Yeah. But I was holding on to that because what the hell else is there? And then, with the partying and stuff. But now there was just nothing. I could like figure out who the fuck I was and that sort of stuff. And I did. I just like picked up right where I left off when I got back there, and I failed out of school. Like there, I think I got like a .01 GPA. I think I might have got a D in geography or something. But so I failed out of school when I was 19. I don't think they call it failed out. I think I was excused from school. Okay.
Yeah.
And then
just don't come back.
They're like, yeah, you can come on campus, but you don't wear the T-shirt. Is basically what they said. And so I went back to back to my folks' house. God bless them. They always provided like a soft landing spot. In the mid 90s, this is like the most 90s thing you'll ever hear. I was just like living in my parents' basement, going to community college, working as a busboy, this freaking Mexican restaurant, staying high. Oh, and by this point, I discovered weed, as you might imagine. and then that was just that, man, for like 2 years. That I was going nowhere. That was basically it. And then a little bit later, not a few years later, but maybe a year and a half, 2 years later, my dad had a pretty frank conversation with me, which was like, what the hell are you doing, dude?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on here? And so like one thing led to another, and next thing I knew, I like woke up in Tempe, Arizona, enrolled in Arizona State University, which
That's like the worst.
yeah, I was
place
gonna
to
say I don't know
send
how
you.
much you know about. That would be like sending a chubby guy to New Orleans or something, but or to McDonald's. But yeah, so I went to Arizona State, and I mean, I wouldn't say I got my shit together. I managed to graduate from college, which probably says more about Arizona State than it does about me. But
And you're drinking smoking weed, partying the whole
and
time. Okay.
big time, and like other substances that entered the picture at that point, like cocaine and various like pills and stuff. So I mean, I was just like going full on, man. I mean, I was just like a runaway train.
And you'd have more than one girlfriend at this point.
Oh yeah. I'd had more than one relationship at this point. Yeah. Yeah, that was one of the, I mean, like, say what you will about drugs and alcohol, they like almost fucking ruined my life, but they helped me discover just how like freaking charming I was, which I guess is an important lesson to learn. Yeah. I mean, you know, I was able to like connect to people and, you know, cultivate some other interests outside of wrestling, which I guess was never really an interest of mine to begin with. It was just more like who I was. And so I became able to like create some close, I mean, I don't know, close is a relative term, but like, yeah, I mean, I had girlfriends and in like those kind of relationships and friendships. Yeah. I had made some dear friends. In fact, I mean, to this day, like, you know, like I said, I don't have brothers and sisters. I'm an only child, but like, there's like, I have some people in my life that are just brothers as far as I'm concerned. And those dudes were pre-sobriety, you know, not everyone
sticks around,
but like, yeah, I made some connections that have really, really, really like nurtured and sustained me, in which I have, you know, find incredible value into this day.
Totally.
From people that I was partying hard with, or, you know, just like from that part of my life. So it's not a black and white thing, but yeah, no, I really started to get a fairly good idea of who I was in my active addiction, and certainly as it started to progress, and that identity that I had discovered for myself, excuse me, kind of came a little more crystallized. This is who I am, and then this is how I behave. And some of the things that I had thought I knew about myself prior to all this, I recognized just weren't true. And like the irony, of course, is that some of the things that I thought I had learned about myself, I now realize weren't true. So I guess that's relativity for you. But yeah, I really, like, if you'd have asked me at the age of like 19, 20, 21, like, am I happy with who I am? I'd have said, oh, hell yeah, man. Yeah, I just, you don't get any tighter than this. I'm dope, and I know it. That's like the way I would have described it. Looking back, I would probably I would probably describe it a little bit differently. But yeah, no, I kind of like developed like the foundation of like, if not who I was, at least some of the like the avenues that I would pursue, and like, I guess for lack of a better word, interests that I would begin to nurture and develop and that sort of stuff. So yeah, I mean, it was a learning experience. Let's say this. I don't remember anything I learned in college, but I got an education. We'll put it that way. Yeah.
What were some of the so like leading up to like finishing college, graduating? What were some of the rock bottoms that you experienced that made you like figure out like I'm fucking up?
Oh
like,
God, yeah. Well, I mean, of course.
Like other than the car accident.
Well, those ones are big ones, yeah. But like, of course, at the time, I didn't
like
recognize
leading up to
them.
treatment.
Yeah. And I started like, so I'll answer your question by jumping ahead a little bit. The first time I went to treatment, or I mean, I didn't even really recognize it as treatment at the time. Oh my God, excuse me. But I lost my train of thought. Yeah, it was a few years after I had graduated from college, several years before I actually finally managed to put some sobriety together. But my point is this: at the time when I was like bumping along the bottom and hitting some real walls that, in hindsight, it would seem like most people would be like, "Dude, slow the hell down." It just didn't register. So like, obviously, getting kicked off the team was a big one. The accident, of course, and then when I went out to Arizona, I mean, just you fucking name it. Like, I didn't have any problem getting into relationships, but I sure as hell had a hard time maintaining them, because the poor young lady would recognize like almost immediately what she was getting herself into. So she would just like, I don't want any part of this maniac. And I was like, you know, I'd always flattered myself that I felt very intensely, but of course I was just like emotionally immature was what it really was. Mm-hmm. So I was like, oh, these heartbreaks, oh my God, which also kind of got like factored into, drinking. Well, yeah. And also factored into like the way I understood myself. I'm perpetually heartbroken. I've got this like this misery, you know, this is just like elegant misery. Yeah. That sort of bullshit. Yeah. But so, I mean, there was that. And then, I mean, I would get like, I mean, even more than that, like I got the shit kicked out of me a lot because here I am like idiot college kid trying to find drugs, man. I'm in South Phoenix. Hey, man, you got any of that cocaine? Como se dice cocaine? Me? Like, college.
Like white frat boy type mentality?
Fistful of Benjamins that I like had gotten for like... you got cocaine? Yeah, of course, like I would be like selling plasma to get like my $40 every 3 days. And then I would like go down there and try to buy cocaine. And I got burned. I got the shit kicked out of me over and over and over again. And just, you know, all that sort of stuff. And then I finally graduated. Well, I mean, I graduated like, I don't know, 5-6 years or whatever with, you're going to love this. I got a degree in philosophy of all things. And I was like, what the fuck am I going to do with this? And so my plan, like if you'd asked like 23-year-old Dak, like what he wanted to do with his life, I would have answered very honestly, well, I want to be homeless, right? I just had some strange ideas about the way the world was going to work. And so I didn't want to do anything, man. I just wanted to like drop off the grid and just kind of like fly a sign for change. I had like, oh my God, that was about as noble as it got as far as I was concerned at the time. Cause I don't want to be a part of this like sick fucking society. No, thank you, man. I'm just going to like, just kind of like fly under the radar.
True philosophy.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And also I'd like just been
blasted out of your brain.
Yeah, that. And I like read, like I started to read like Henry Miller and Nietzsche. John Fonte and that sort of stuff at exactly the wrong time in my life where I was like, oh yeah, okay, I get it. And then just like listening to all this like punk rock. I mean, I just
Dak,
basically
I love the way that you just like you talk about these incidences and you just are like so spot on.
Yeah. Once again, like I said, like I understand his references, so like it's like perfect because like I have these amazing references in my mind.
Yeah, but
like 120 on MTV.
Oh yeah. You know what I discovered? There's a channel called MTV Classic that like shows nothing but that. Oh
yes,
my God.
I know, it's so great.
So as an adult, I'm like no more productive than I was at that age because I'm doing the same thing, man. My wife will get up at like 2 a.m. and just be like, oh God, and go back to bed. But anyway, so I finished college and I was like, I don't really want to do anything. What should I do? Which my parents, of course, were thrilled to learn. And so I got a job working on a boat as a deckhand on this like weird looking ship where that was where I started to really experience some consequences because I learned a lot about sailing. I also learned that I should never, ever under any circumstances be a passenger on a boat because the people responsible for your safety are just like tweaked out like 24/7, at least if it was the boat I was working on. And so I just oh my God, I just really, really, really hit a bottom.
So no cruises for you?
Well, no, don't do that. And also I was working on this like weird ship where they would like take like teachers and scientists around to do like various type of experimental type stuff, but I was just part of the crew. But like that was the first time, and when I'm working with clients here and we're like talking about defense mechanisms and denial and that sort of stuff, one of the things I always ask them to do, or I often ask them to do, is like think back to like maybe not the first time anyone expressed concern because we don't really recognize it, or at least I didn't really recognize it, but like the first time I am aware that someone expressed concern. So I remember this, the captain of that boat that I was working on called me up to the bridge, when the bridge is like the driver's seat of the boat, and he's like, dude, you know, we can get you some help if you want some help. He was like, we want to be part of the solution for you, man. If you want to go to treatment, or I don't know if he said like 12-step, I don't know, I forget the language that he used, but he was like offering me help. And I remember at that time, which like objectively I was a mess. I had no business. I was working and being responsible for anyone's safety. But I remember at the time, I was just like super embarrassed. And it wasn't embarrassed that like, oh, he sees how fucked up I am. I was embarrassed in the same way that like like if you meet some guy who like starts talking and like that the earth is flat or that he was abducted by UFOs, it's just like, oh my God, this poor guy is just like
he's so fucking delusional.
Yeah, exactly.
What
so I just remember being like,
here?
I remember like the captain was like, yeah, we can help you out here. And I was like, okay, yeah, all right, thanks. But I mean, it goes without saying, looking back, he was like, could not have been more spot on.
Yeah. So what was the rock bottom when you started to actually move towards recovery?
Okay, well, rock bottom.
Probably skipping a little bit.
Yeah,
into
okay,
it,
yeah.
I wanna
Well,
make sure we get to that part.
A few years after that.
I feel like we need like a 2-hour episode for that.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of stuff.
Because like I want to hear it so bad.
Yeah.
I know.
A few years after that. So I guess this was maybe 2000, 99, 2000. I don't quite remember. Maybe 2001. Doesn't matter.
I'm like sitting there thinking it's gonna be like 2009.
No. Oh God, no. I was living in Gainesville, Florida, of all places, and why I ended up there is a story. That's for a completely. That's a different podcast. But I had gotten, not really for the first time, but I'd found myself, you know, a guest of the Alachua County Detention Facility. I was in jail, and I'd gotten picked up for just some bullshit, and I was like, you know, I don't know how many of your listeners have a lot of jail experience, but you know, you're all hanging out in this holding cell until like the judge comes first thing in the morning. And I remember I had gotten picked up on a Thursday, I guess it was a Thursday, Friday, something. And then so I'm sitting around, we're all sitting around, and then like they march you in front of this like closed circuit TV, and there's like a judge who's like blah blah blah. And like, so what the judge kept saying for like everyone who came up, he was like, or actually it was a she was like, okay, ROR, released on your own recognizance. The next person came up for whatever. ROR, released on your own recognizance. Next person, ROR, released on your own recognizance. So there was no doubt in my mind I was getting out of there. I was just like, okay, I just got to buy my time. And so for whatever reason, I'm sitting up there, and I had gotten, this is going to surprise you, I'd gotten picked up for like drug and alcohol related thing. And so the judge was like, all right, Mr. Wasson, blah, blah, blah. So are you willing to get some kind of help? Are you willing? I forget the phrase that she used, but it was like, are you willing to go to treatment? Yeah. And as a direct quote, I was like, no, thanks, Your Honor. And so I was not released. And so, and then like the irony of that. Yeah, exactly. I was like, whoa, hold on. Let me get, no, they already get ROR, next person. I was like, hey, what about me? But yeah, so the irony, of course, is that I ended up doing treatment for that anyway. But so yeah, that was the first time I was exposed to treatment. And that was in Florida. I ended up kind of drifting, I guess is how you describe it, up to Illinois, where I lived for several years. And I mean, I kind of laugh about it, but that's only because like laughter is a defense mechanism. It's really like heartbreaking. I just kind of became like, you know, the guy that you see at the 7-Eleven or whatever, where you're like, oh God, not this guy, or oh, is this guy going to ask me for? I was just like, I mean, I was just punked out, man. And my folks, God bless them, you know, they were always, I mean, they were over it pretty quickly, and they had some good Al-Anon under their belt, because I learned, you know, later in life that my grandpa, my dad's dad, was, you know, an alcoholic and had been one of the first dudes in you know, north central Minnesota to like become involved in some of the 12-step programs way back in the day up there. So my dad knew exactly what he was dealing with, and more than that, he knew exactly how to deal with it, which was like, you know, and so you know, just like in and out of treatment, in and out of jail for various periods of time, just getting my ass kicked. Yeah, an alcoholic. And I like had gotten, I was working at bookstore. I'd like lost all these jobs. For some reason, I was always working at bookstores, like Barnes and Noble. I was working at
How
Borders.
How did you get fired from a bookstore?
Oh, it's not hard. it's pretty
alcoholic in a quiet bookstore.
Yeah, I'll tell you.
Enough.
I'll tell you exactly how that works off camera. But but I remember, you know, and I remember one time around that time, I was like, oh God, I got a real problem here. And I was talking to my dad, who, God bless him, casts a long shadow. I mean, he's just a leader of men type guy. And I was like, okay, I'm going to ask my dad for some help. Oh man, I'm really swallowing my pride here. Oh my God, I'm really going out on a limb here. And I remember I was like, Dad, yeah, whew, man, I think I've got a drug problem. his response was like, yeah, no shit. Like, we've been trying to tell you that for years. And anyway, like kind of like long story short, one time, you know, and they had gotten to the point where they had offered support, which means like they're going to fund another treatment trip, whether it's outpatient or inpatient or whatever. But if I wasn't willing to like make some real meaningful moves towards change, yeah, don't bother coming by the house. And one of the times, this is actually pretty funny. Like one of the times, you know how like you'd be in a blackout and then you'd wake up and be like, oh my God, what did I do? Oh, I did that. Well, I had a lot of experience with that. The worst one was when the oh my God, I did that was agree to go to treatment again. So they shipped my ass up to Minnesota in 2005, which was when I finally ended up knock on wood, got sober to stay sober. So I went up to Minnesota. I went into an inpatient treatment center up there, kind of with the same idea that I'd always had, which was I'm just going to go up here, bang out these 30 days, and then get the fuck back home and carry on with whatever I had going on back then. But they kind of threw me a curveball where, when it was like time to leave, they're like, all right, Dak, you did good. Thanks for coming. We recommend you move into a halfway house.
And do outpatient.
Yeah, I kind of went back to the old like Judge in Gainesville. I was like, no, thank you. And my folks were like, well, that's cool, but you're on your own. So I ended up living in a halfway house, which was incredible. And then after the halfway house, I moved into a sober house, not an Oxford house, but something that's similar to an Oxford house, where I lived for about 2 years, maybe not quite 2 years, something like that. And I'm still sober today.
History.
Yeah, I mean, the rest is history. There was one thing I had gotten out of the inpatient treatment center, and they wanted me to go to one halfway house. I was like, I'm not doing that, dude. And so I went to a different place and relapsed immediately. And so you were asking like, what's a bottom? Here's a bottom. I'll do it like this. I'd gotten out of the inpatient treatment center. They bust my ass to this place in Minneapolis. Right around this time, my sober date's coming up, but it was like right around this time in 2005. I like put my bags down. I was like, all right, cool. I'm going to go and check out what's going on in downtown Minneapolis. And I kind of like, made this, like, I kind of created this idea in my head that I wanted to watch the baseball playoffs, which were going on, although I could have done that at the halfway house. So I ended up, they had surely they're going to have a TV in this strip club. And so, anyway, I didn't stay sober. And here's what happened. And to this day, I don't understand this, right? So it's like, this has got to be the grace of God or something, man. So I'm like stumbling around Minnesota, just like high on like unimaginable toxins, like coursing through my veins. And I had gotten it. And I was at a point, not really at a point, but I was always like threatening to kill myself. I was a total bummer. I was like, if you and me were partying, I'd be like, Cooper, we should fucking kill ourselves, I was like, and so
I know guys like
yeah. And so I was like, I was walking around. I was trying to find the Hennepin Street Bridge. It seemed like it was like a great way to go out. John Berryman, the famous poet, kind of did something similar in Minnesota, and so
philosophy major coming in.
You can take the kid out of school, but you can't take the school out of kid. But what was I saying? Oh yeah, I had a cell phone at that time. I mean, it was like the freaking size of this thing. But like, so I'm carrying around this cell phone. And back where I'd been living in Illinois prior to going up to treatment, and there was a young lady that I was dating, whose name I won't mention to protect the innocent. But it's like 2 a.m, and I was in and out of a blackout. I was like in a brownout, is what they call it. And I got this call on my cell phone. And I was like, oh, what the fuck? And I like, hello, Dak speaking. And it was my girlfriend. She's like, yo, hey baby, what's going on? Which was really, really crazy because it was the middle of the night. She didn't plan on calling me. We didn't make a habit of connecting. There's just like no reason for her to be calling. And I was like, oh, I'm glad that you called. I'm about to jump off the Hennepin Street Bridge. So
later,
I don't want you to ever date again. If I pass away, please never date again, I think was my quote. But, so she was like, oh, okay, I get it. And then she hung up the phone, called my family, my mom and my dad. I don't remember exactly, but she called my mom and dad. Anyway, a strange series of events transpired, which led to the halfway house van that they've got coming and picking my ass up. And they actually took me back to the halfway house, which I didn't think was a big deal then, but now I realize, no, you're not going to a halfway house if you're loaded. Yeah. But I slept it off there. My dad, God bless him, drove up from Illinois the next day, which is like a 7-hour drive, right the hell back to the detox in the inpatient treatment center that I was at. And I was sitting there, and I was like, oh, well, fuck this, man. And I guess the guys down on the unit had gotten word that I was back, so they like came up and were just kind of fucking with me a little bit.
Yeah.
They let me know how disappointed they were in with me, and there it was. I remember how do I want to put this? Like, still to this day, and that was October 20th, 2005, and I have not had a drink. I've been sober every day of my life since then.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. And but I remember I was like, oh, this sucks, man. I'm in a pickle here, man. What am I going to do? And I remember I'd been around long enough to know that, like, oh my God, you're supposed to reach out to a higher power or some bullshit like that. And I remember, this is true, man. If it weren't true, I would probably pass it off as true, but this is actually true. I was like, okay, I'm gonna like reach out to a higher power here or something. And it's like a hospital thing, so there's like the curtain, and I remember I was like, okay, all right, and I like closed the little curtain because I was going to do something really, really, really embarrassing. I was going to pray, which I'm still not really in the habit of today. I have not become like a very religious man at all, but like I'm doing it at this time. And like, boy, man, this was super embarrassing because this was a point in my life. I mean, I would rather you had caught me masturbating than praying at that point in my life. Today, I'd much rather you caught me praying, but so I kind of got down on my little hands, and I was like, hey God, higher power, whatever, this is Dak. I thought I had to identify myself, and it was like, hey, this sucks, and I'm hoping for a better way. Here, take all of me, or whatever the various prayers I'd learned in treatment were, and I think I might have even been like, and if you hear me, give me a sign or something like that, But then I remember I opened my eyes and I was like, oh, nothing. I didn't know if I was expecting like a rainbow or like a butterfly to land on my shoulder or something, but like nothing had happened. And so I was like, oh boy, well, okay. But then I realized years later, I haven't had a drink or a drug since that day. So, I mean, I'm a simple man. The simplest explanation is like something had changed at that point. And I don't think that what had changed was like some benevolent God like struck me sober. I think it was like a window of willingness had opened, which I stepped through, because what happened next was I went through detox and went back to treatment, and then went to the halfway house that they had suggested in the first place and completed that, cursing and sweating, but completing it. And just kind of like taking the indicated steps, 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, 4 steps forward, 3 steps back, but staying sober, physically sober. I found other ways to get in trouble, but that was it, man. There it was.
And now you're the lead counselor in North Point, Washington.
And now all of this.
And life is amazing.
Yeah, mountain, get out of my way, because now I am the middleman at North Point, Washington, in suburban Seattle. So
no, now you're dope and you know it.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's never changed, man. Yeah. God damn it, I know I'm tight. So
go ahead. Just kidding. I love that. So,
Dak, you want to come to Boise, bro? You want to come to Boise? We're gonna have a great time over at North Point, Idaho, bro.
I'm on my way. Yeah.
So, before we get out of here, first of all, thank you. That was a great story. I didn't even have to really push you along. That was amazing. What do you want to leave us with? If somebody's listening right now that might be struggling with addiction, might be going through some of the things that you went through, or have a loved one that's going through those things, what would you want to leave us with?
Well, the thing that I've taken away from it, from my own experience, and then maybe even more so from like, in what I've made my career, and like kind of like helping others to find the same path, is that like, when I was struggling to make these changes, and when I was struggling to, find some sobriety, in my mind, like the bar was so freaking high that like it was impossible to clear the bar. But what I realize, and what I think is important, and what I tell anyone who will listen, is that like, man, like you can't fuck this up. Like there is no failure. You know what I mean? I remember my wrestling coach, God bless him, used to always say like, you don't lose, you win or you learn. And I would always say, well, I learned so much, I didn't even make it to the podium. But like in recovery, it's like the same way, where it's like, there is no failure. And we make and I want to be careful the way I put this, because I don't want to be misunderstood, but we, including myself, place so much of a value on like the sober date and like the clean time, which, don't get me wrong, could not be more important. But like I'd come to believe, no one had taught me, I just kind of learned that like, if I don't stay sober, well, it's all lost. And if I'm going to put myself, if I'm not able to like really get my shit together, and I stumble out of the gates, or I like make a wrong turn, or I go back to using or drinking or something, well, I might as well I fucked up entirely. And what I've realized is it's like, yeah, all things being equal, it's probably best to stay sober as quickly and for as long as possible. But even if I do relapse, and even if, those of you out there do relapse, nothing's lost. We get ourselves, it's not the relapse itself, the continued use itself, the going back out, the fucking up itself doesn't tell us nearly as much about a person in their recovery as what happens as a result of that, how we respond to that, not how we react to that, because a reaction is mindless and impulsive. A response is a wise decision to take action. And that's what it is. So there is absolutely no reason not to start today. Oh, you're 13 years old, you can't possibly stay sober for the rest of your life? Cool, let's get sober now. And if you don't stay sober tomorrow, all right, we'll reevaluate then. But I remember for myself, I just my expectations about what was going to be expected and what it was going to involve were just like so freaking high that it kept me from like making like a real effort at making some significant changes. And then what I found on the other side of it, and God willing, a week from today, next Sunday, I'll have 14 years. But like what I found in those 14 years is that like there's really no failure, man. Like there is no progress that cannot be, or that can be undone. Anything, any progress that I'm getting a job. Oh, shit, I lost a job. Oh, I'm getting my family back. Oh, now I'm out of the house again. These are not meaningless. These aren't things that I've lost and can't get back. Everything that we gain, we keep.
Still have that recovery.
Yeah. And not recognizing that, it almost killed me. Yeah. I mean, it almost killed me. And I thank God or Allah or whoever, my higher power, let's put it that way, for delivering me, because I feel like I've won the lottery, man. I'm like the luckiest guy in the world. There's like nothing particularly special about me. I'm not particularly smart or gifted in any way. I definitely don't work any harder than some of these people who are struggling. I'm not more ambitious or like, anything that's quantifiable. There are people out there that have more of it than me. And I think maybe the only thing that I had was just like that, like willingness, I suppose, at a pretty meaningful point in my life where I just got to the point where that like, oh man, like the easier, softer way is just like straight through the middle of the problem. And I've been coasting on that. Well, not really coasting, but I've been like building on that ever since. That saved my life, man. That saved my life. So
I love it.
Yeah.
Cool. Big John.
Dax.
Dak, I've seen you walking around here Drax. Seen you walking around North Point. I never really had a chance to really talk with you, and I'm really, really happy that we got this chance to sit down with you and hear your story and chat with you. You're a funny guy, and you have a pretty incredible story, and I love that you're using it to help other people. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. I'm really pleased to be here.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Bro.
All right, guys. It's been No Way But North, where we talk about the miracles of recovery and the tools used to achieve them. Thanks.
If you or a loved one are struggling with addiction, please call 208-999-4064. The views and opinions expressed in No Way But North do not reflect those of North Point Recovery or any other institution or organization.